Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the quotes that shape how they see life, helping you discover new perspectives to carry with you each day. Today's guest is Adam Torres, the co-founder of Mission Matters Media and the host of a top-ranked podcast series. He's conducted over 6,000 interviews, dedicated his career to amplify voices and sharing stories, and believes deeply in the power of giving others a platform to inspire the world. Let's step into Adam's world for a few minutes and hear the quote that has guided him on this remarkable journey. Yeah, tell us your name and your favorite, what your favorite quote is.
So, my name is Adam Torres, and I'm the co founder of Mission Matters, a media company located in Beverly Hills, California. And the name of my show is called Mission Matters. And one of my favorite quotes is actually by Theodore Roosevelt. So, he was a former president in the United States. And it is do what you can with what you have where you are. So that's one of my favorite quotes. And the reason why it's one of my favorite quotes is I feel like there's so many people that maybe get caught up in, why something can't be done, whether it's money, whether it's funding, whether it's, you name it, knowledge, whether it's, they weren't born into the right family, they weren't born in the right place, like lots and lots of things. But in my experience, like it's all about just, taking one step forward and trying, like even when we started our company, Mission Matters. I didn't have my very first show. I didn't use a professional mic. I didn't do any of that. Like you have this fancy, beautiful, like podcasting software that we're recording on today. I didn't do any of that. I had my phone, right? So I recorded on my phone and we didn't even edit. But you know what I did? I exactly what that quote says. I do what I could with what I had exactly where I was at. I had a phone, I had some headphones, and I just started recording.
Can you remember the first time you saw or heard this quote?
I think the first time I saw it, I was pretty young. I was probably a teenager, I think, at that time, and I remember being in school, and I think I started to learn about it. And I come from Detroit, Michigan, so it was a town in the Midwest, and I remember thinking about it and thinking about the idea that there's so many reasons why I couldn't do something or why somebody says I couldn't do it, but if I could just do what I could do where I was at exactly at that moment, then, my faith, and I hope, and I believe that if it was God's will as well, like if it was actually part of my journey or destiny, then, God would also open up doors for me and make things more possible and help attract the right people to me if I'm walking in his will.
Yeah, yeah. Now you said it you got introduced to this quote pretty young, and it has been one of
Hmm.
the things that you kind of fall back on. And you made mention of when you started your company and your show, you didn't have or you didn't have all the fancy stuff. You just needed you just had what you needed to get the stuff done.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Other than your show, what other um time in your life where it felt that you needed fancy stuff, but you just had to make do with what you had?
So if we go back a little bit earlier, before even the shows, the first book that I wrote, it was called Money Matters. I didn't know anything about writing a book, just to be straightforward. In fact, I didn't even want to write a book. One of my mentors, Chris Kai, he told me, Adam, you got to write a book. It's to market your company and do some other things. And I'm like, I don't want to write a book. Why am I going to write a book? Nobody cares about my story. Nobody wants to hear about what I have to say. So I didn't even want to do it really. And he's like, no, you have to do it one way or another. So the way that I wrote my first book, which I now, by the way, we are a professional publishing company. We've published over 400 authors. And actually, if anybody wants to see one of the books we just published, you can check out my Instagram, Ask Adam Torres, and you'll see some books and some other things that we're doing. But the point is, for my very first book, now if you look at them, they're professional, right? We're a professional publishing company. But my very first book, man, it was ugly. Like, I mean, like the graphic design was kind of all messed up on the cover. It looks kind of bad. The story, I stand by the words, by the way, all the words and all the content I stand by, but the professionalism of the design and everything everything else. My thought was, I'm not going to spend money on doing this. Why am I going to spend money on doing a book? Like, nobody's going to care or this or that. It doesn't really matter. Let me just do it because my mentor said I needed to do it. And so I actually I didn't even physically write it. What I did was I used an app on my phone and I spoke my first book. Like, I
Wow.
just spoke it. I just came up with I came up with maybe 21, lessons or things that I thought were interesting, and then I had one topic, and I just talked about it, like, that one topic, and when I was done talking about it, that was a chapter.
Wow.
And so that was a chapter, and then I sent it to the editor edited it, and then we put it together, and that was my first book. But let me tell you, that first book led to everything else. So when I talk about it being God's will or like putting other people in your path that you may not know are there to help you. I mean, I've been on speaking tours as far away as China based off of that book and based off of some of the attention that that got, even though I was just doing what I could with what I had at that moment. I didn't spend a bunch of money on it. It was just self-published and I just put it out and that was that.
Wow. 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 Thanks for sharing that. Could you take us back down to, like, recently, what has been the most recent, instance where you applied the quote? Maybe, I don't know how recent it could be for you, but
Mhm.
I'm guessing you have something for
Yeah.
us.
So I'm literally today. I'll give you an example from today. This morning, I was on a call with a gentleman, and he works pretty closely with let's just say some of the royalty in Saudi Arabia. Now, I've never been to Saudi Arabia. I don't know anybody in Saudi Arabia. All I know is that I've done some interviews, and I came up with a concept for a interview series that I want to do, which is called a 2030 series. And so that series is to support MBS, so the Crown Prince, his thought process and his vision on really modernizing and revolutionizing Saudi Arabia and helping them diversify from being an oil only type of economy. So, remember, I don't know anybody there. I don't know. All I know is that I know what I do. I interview people. I know I create content. So I created the concept and I talked to somebody about it today who could possibly make that work. And I'm just really doing what I could do with with an idea. And based on if that idea is picked up, then I will be doing quite a bit of work in Saudi Arabia. But that's just based off of an idea. So when you talk about like resources or like doing what you can do with what you got where you're at, that's an idea.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Now you've had this quote, and for most of the things, uh, they can be subject to misinterpretation. What would be some misinterpretation that it's not exactly what this means, but people might kind of like read it to be what it is not for this quote?
Mm. To me, I think if you read this in a like, let's just say I read it with an optimistic lens. So when I've done quite a bit of reading about Theodore Roosevelt or Teddy Roosevelt and his thought process and his logic. So I think he had a more of an optimistic bent on it. So it's do what you can with what you have where you are. So I think that he meant it to be a little bit more optimistic and to be self-empowering with that, to help to encourage others to follow and chase their dreams and to not make excuses. So he was that type of like a little bit of a rougher individual to like no nonsense, right? Like want get it done. I think if you read that same quote with maybe a negative lens, or if you had a negative slant and you didn't really understand the context, do what you can with what you have where you are. I think that might say that it's okay to be complacent because that's all you have. So, just do what you can. Like if you look at it in a negative way or with a little bit of a negative lens, you could say, well, that's your lot in life. So just do what you can with it. Right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this quote has been something you've known for years now, and for me, I do believe that with the way the world is now, with a lot of noise, with a lot of voices out there, there's so many distractions that we need to be reminded more than if we need to even be taught. And for me, the question is, how do you keep reminding yourself every now and then that you need to do what you can with what you have where you are? Let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more thought provoking ideas straight to your inbox, join the Relatable Wisdom email list. It's free, quick, and filled with bite sized insights, inspiring quotes, and behind the scenes reflections from our guests. Just head to relatablewisdom.com/join. That is relatablewisdom.com/join, or tap the link in the show notes. And hey, subscribing to the podcast helps more than you think, and it's free. So if you haven't already, hit that follow button wherever you're listening. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
I think that I when I read the news or when I see other things like and I see people doing bold things, I think that I've trained myself to kind of see the world with those lenses. Cuz nobody, I don't care if you're Bill Gates, he doesn't have enough money to do all the things that he wants to do. Like period. So money is always going to be, even for him, he wants to eradicate polio, he wants to do all these other things, whatever, whatever, like all these things. And maybe I'm wrong on that. It's been a while since I've researched him, but so don't hold me to that, anybody that's listening. But it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter like what you're doing. You're going to need people, you're going to need resources. And if it's something big or a big vision, then it's always going to seem like you need more than you can get. Like think about it, Elon Musk wants to explore space. He can't do that alone. Like, right? Like you can't do that
Yeah.
alone. That takes people, that takes infrastructure, that takes investors, that takes tons of money more than he has, or you know what I mean? That takes creativity, that takes problem solvers. So when I look at the world as a whole, it's a constant reminder to me. And so then when I look back at my own situation, it's pretty easy to reflect and say, okay, well, these are some challenges, this, but what do I have now? What can I do today?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there will always be things that we do not have. They will always be there.
Mm,
Yeah, and if our focus is on the things that we do not have, we'll never be happy. We'll never be able to do anything. Like, oh, now
mm,
that I have, let's say I was like, oh, I needed a phone so I can record and do podcasting, and now I have a phone. I say, no, no, the greats they use the Canon camera. I need a Canon camera. And then when I get a Canon camera, I'm like, no, 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 I need a studio somewhere that is treated so that the sound is
mm,
is better. And then when I get a studio, I say, no, no, no. The place I am now, the city I am now, it doesn't have really, really interesting persons. I need to be maybe in Los Angeles, California, or Silicon
yeah.
Valley, and so I can talk to all the tech giants and stuff like that. And there will always be things and things and things and things that you do not have that
Mm,
probably will make the stuff magical. But I think at the end of the day, it's just a way for us um, to compensate for our inability, or for like to say that, to just accept and say that we're not so good at it, and having more tools is not necessarily going to make you a master. Having tools is great, but it's not
mm,
going to make you the master of the craft. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
And what I like that you bring that up, by the way, because I do have friends, and not no disrespect to them, but I have other people and friends that when I started this journey, they were kind of going on the same path, and some of the things you mentioned, and some of those things are what maybe held them back. And for myself, like with just reflecting back on that quote, like that's how I look back and, interview by interview, brick by brick, I've done over 6,000 interviews. And this year I'll do between 1,500 and 2,000 interviews this year alone. So when you think about that, like that all started from a cell phone. There was no company, there was no bunch of other things here. And so some of the other individuals that were doing exactly what you said, oh, the audio's not perfect. Oh, let me tell you what I used to tell them in the beginning. You're going to laugh at this as a podcaster. So I remember some of my friends, because I didn't even edit the audio in the beginning, I told you. Some of my friends would be like, Adam, your audio's a little off. And I'd be like, oh, really? I'm like where? Like, can you tell me where? And then they'd be like, oh, well, here and this and that. And it had this noise or whatever. And I'd say, okay, I want you to do me a favor. I'm going to be I'm gonna get that fixed for the next episode. If it's not fixed, you let me know. Send me a text, but listen to it and let me know." And they would listen to it and they'd be like, "No, Adam, the audio's still not fixed. No, Adam, the audio's still not fixed." And then like after 2 or 3 times, I think they would catch on that all I wanted was the download. I wasn't changing anything.
Yeah. Ah, sneaky.
Keep on listening. It's
Yeah.
so sneaky. Keep on
Yeah.
listening. No shame,
Oh.
baby. No shame.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see what you did there. Wow.
You see what I did there,
Yeah,
right? So you tell me.
yeah,
You tell me if that's not the definition of like doing what you can where you're at with what you have.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the funny thing is with starting with what you have is that it becomes an inspiring story that, oh, when I started, I didn't have this, I didn't have this. It was this stuff that I used, and now look at what it is now, and it's so easy for other persons to just hear that story and say, wow, this person started with this, me too, I can start too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You're totally right,
yeah,
and then that's where and that's one of the blessings I think that God has given me, actually, is if I had all of the money in the world and all the access and all those other things, would that be that inspiring of a story for others? Probably not. But because I started very small in this business, and even though I had a finance career before and I was fairly successful in business, like I did okay, but I didn't put that money into this business. So when I started this business, it was from scratch. So what that means is I was starting at the very, very bottom of media. So that becomes, I think, an interesting story so that when somebody comes to me and tells me all these excuses, I can tell them my first 300 episodes were done on a phone and were not edited. And we built a media company from that.
yeah. Just so I know you've given us a ton of examples. Has there been a business decision or step you've taken rather than starting the business itself? Where you there was kind of like an opportunity, but you didn't have so much material resources, time, or money, but you had to like make use of what was available at the point in time, other than the beginning or the starting of the business. I just wanted
Mhm.
kind of like a business story to tie into the quote.
I'll take you maybe a step further. We've actually tied this into the culture of the company. So I'll give you an example. Especially for the content creators out there, endless tools you can use, endless things. Like whether it's, a new design software, a new recording software, a new microphone, a new this, a new that. We don't we look at perfecting with what we have before we even think about testing something new. So I before I did video, so let me give you for an example, I did over 1500 interviews before we even did a single interview on video. And why did I do that? Because we wanted to perfect the audio side and we didn't want to incur the investment of bringing video in. And whenever I bring on a new podcaster or we have a agency where we launch shows. We've launched over 200, going on 250 shows. And just to be clear, when we launch new shows, my agency makes more money from launching a show that's video. But when the host will listen to me, I will tell them start with audio.
Yeah,
And if you want to become a good host, because if you just want to do branding and that's it, like, okay, great, video could get you some good branding. But if you want to become a good host and if you want to like perfect your craft, start with audio. Like start with audio because you're going to have to become a better conversationalist. It's harder to carry an audio show. You can't just look good or you can't just be in front of the camera and have good lighting. So it's just harder.
yeah,
And so you can't really hide on audio. You have to get better over time. So that's what I tell people. So that's an example.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that
Mhm.
story. Thank you so much for that. Over the years, have there been instances where you've had to like adapt or kind of like reinterpret the quote?
I think every level you get as a company, it changes, and also just with vision. Like as God blesses me, I would argue with more vision and with more opportunity and with more options. It become like the quote takes on like a deeper meaning, deeper complexity. Because you're working with more things, whether it's resources, whether it's people, whether it's access, like things change over time, right? So I would say that with every level, it's gotten a new complexion and a new thought process. So in the beginning, doing what you can with what you got. It might have been the thought process of should we be using, better equipment or should we be doing video? Now, doing what you can with what you got is should I be doing a partnership with a company to work with, royalty in Saudi Arabia, or should I be focusing my time in China or some other geopolitical area?
Yeah.
So these are all decisions at different levels, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it makes sense. Thank you so much for sharing your favorite quotes with us and the stories behind them. Where can listeners learn more about what you do? And yeah.
I'd love for people to go to my Instagram. So ask Adam Torres. Send me a DM. Let me know what you're working on, and let me know that you see me on this show, like Relatable Wisdom, and that would be the hope. Let's keep the conversation going. I'm interested in what kind of work you're up to too. So send me a message. Ask Adam Torres on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if just in for the next 90 seconds, if you were to give this you had 90 seconds to pitch this quote and this idea to someone, and 90 seconds, can you do that for us?
Pitch it, you mean?
Yeah, kind of like, how do I put it now, like let's say 90 seconds where you have to like motivate someone with this quote, but in 90 seconds,
All
just
right.
like that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Hey, do what you can with what you have where you are. No excuses. Get the job done. It doesn't matter like what your station is in life. It doesn't matter what you were born with. Doesn't matter your family, your upbringing. Do what you can with what you got where you're at. Be creative. Think of ways to find solutions and move forward one step at a time. I don't care how big the wall is that you're trying to build. It's going to be done one brick at a time, one step at a time. Like get it done.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Adam, for coming on the podcast and for sharing your stories and your quotes with us.
Thank you. I appreciate all you're doing to get the content out there, and love meeting other podcasters. So appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to Relatable Wisdom. If you found something meaningful in this episode, make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that by buying me a coffee. The link is in the show notes. Every little bit keeps the conversations going. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, staying curious, stay inspired, and keep growing.